Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on August 19th, 2022 at approximately 6:26 a.m. PST. Well, that came out really well, but we did get it out. Anyway, figured I'd bring you up to speed. Okay, and the reality of it is you've got your mind set on what you desire to do. You've got your mind set on changing your life. Okay, we've covered a lot of different things, but here's the reality behind it. It's an ongoing process. Now, I had mentioned that I've mentioned quite a number of times that I am pushing to get a number of books done all at the same time. I finally made contact, finally got them to make contact, the major distributor I was working with. Finally got to make contact, and in 20 minutes, I had the problem sorted out. And then they sent back the proof that was needed to straighten out the way the books are. Okay, so I'll send the authorization form this morning to make it all happen. So this really boils down to this. Number one, regardless of who you are, regardless of your station in life, okay, it is imperative you come to the realization that you're just as important as the next person. As I told this company, look, I know I'm a little fish in a very big ocean. This does not give you the right to treat me this poorly, because the way you're treating me is absolutely unprofessional. Now, I did manage to maintain my cool, which worked out nicely. Okay, something I was quite happy about. But this is the key factor to it, right there. Okay, those 4 words. If you haven't used them before, get them onto something. Write them on your fridge in indelible ink for all that matters from my end. Personally, this one I went a little overboard on. Okay, did this one with a magnifying lens and the sun. Okay, this is done completely in that fashion. That's the only way I'll enhance it. But on my fridge, I've got one done on cardstock and laminated. And then I've just got a simple sheet of paper hung on my front door that says, I am worth it. I had somebody in my apartment block actually found out how important that little phrase is. Had somebody in my apartment block that actually stopped at my door he stopped to talk to me one day as I was going into it. He says, the guy goes, literally, I've never seen somebody put that on their front door. But he said, it makes so much sense to me. And that's the whole key to putting it up. Okay, it's a constant reminder, even if you don't know that you require the reminder. Okay, it is a reminder that tells you that you are worth the effort. Okay. And no, I'm not showing you the type yet, but the stuff I was waiting for has now shown up. So I'll know in the next few days. I'll be taking that. I got finished watching the video one last time before I start taking it. Okay, but this stuff is theoretically going to help my teeth. I will know that in 3 or 4 days, because the reality is, from my standpoint, they say it takes a few weeks to really start seeing the changes. From my standpoint, the last time I tried taking an herbal concoction of anybody, no matter the research, they said it would work one way. That was great. Took it for 4 days and had a heart attack. I'm thinking this is not necessarily great. So right now, up on my screen up here, I've got 4 books set right there that I'm working on at this point. Now I'm looking at doing, like, okay, can we try English, or at least one thought? What do you think? I'm going to do my best to keep this down to an hour today, right now, and then come back on a little later. But the reason for that is my throat doesn't take 4 hours of work, 4 hours of talking all at the same time. So this way, what I'll do is I'll come back on a little later after I get a few things done. Right, like it's 6:30 PST right now, and I'm thinking at 7:30 I'm just going to pull the plug on it, and I'll come back later in the day and see if breaking it up makes it work a little easier. So, I am making headway, but what's happening is I'm finding things that have to be changed. Right, which reminds me, that had better be on the top of my list. Again, this is what I usually do in the morning before I ever actually get anywhere. But I figure I'm working here, I'm on live, and this is about, I did not do that. That's why I don't know if this is actually working. Okay. Yeah, that should theoretically open me up and put me on. So pardon the overflow for a minute here. As soon as I know it's actually talking, I'll be happy. There we go. There we go. Whoop, that apparently didn't work. There we go. Okay. Now I've got that set up and running. And I know that the camera is working. I mean, I know when my computer says the camera doesn't work. But here's, the reality of it is I've got to finish the video next. Okay, then I've got to get to, after that, I've got to get the descriptions for Races of the World done, for the few that I've got, and then for the next set. Because I'm not letting that leave any longer. I've already got the list together of what I've got to do. I just have to pull it open and make it happen. I know how that fits. Okay, I figured that out. That's always nice. Talk about being slow some days. Just double checking what I did with finances this morning. And again, by staying on, you would have loved this one. Got an email warning me, and this is a very big caution for you. Little Katie, good morning. How we doing? Glad you could join me. If I'm leaning a little close, my camera is there, and I didn't think to look over here. I've got the second monitor over here that's got what you see sitting beside me, where I can actually read it. This is a very big caution for all of you. Okay, I was watching Netflix, and of course, I checked my email. My email came in and said, Netflix, your account to Netflix has been suspended. Please push this button. Push this link to make your payment. Now, the thing you have to realize here is, first and foremost, you never ever ever hit a hot link on a site that you're not entirely certain. Now, of course, when I got the email, I've got my Netflix running, and email says, it's been suspended. This is a pretty black and white. But assuming you don't have your Netflix up or whatever it is, okay, you can always go to the site Do not hit the hot links. The other thing is, with this particular email, it literally said, hit this hot link. But when I held my mouse over the email that was in question, you look at the originating email. Now, I forget offhand what the email was, but the originating email is what will tell you whether it's even remotely good. Okay, now I strongly urge you, unless you absolutely know the site for certain, hitting hot links on an email is usually a bad idea. Okay, now that said, not all hot links are bad. Like, if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like the video, there's a little button down in the bottom right corner. Okay, that'll set you up to subscribe to the channel. Okay, now the reality of it is, as I told my distributor yesterday, I am a very small fish in a very big pond. I really am. This does not make me any less valuable. As a matter of fact, in all fairness, if you think about it, if you look at what you're contributing and how much potential you've got, and there is nothing stopping you from attaining whatever you're aiming at. Okay, I just went with I just took myself from going, how do I deal with this? This whole fiasco that I've been dealing with. I've been waiting for them to contact me. Okay. And the reality is when somebody contacts you, when a big corporation contacts you, you're supposed to apparently go, oh, you're a big corporation. Let's just bow down and say, what do you want? How can we get the benefit of your insight? I turned around and went, no, I don't really care that you're a big corporation. The fact of the matter is what you're doing is not acceptable to me. Net result, 20-minute phone call and about 4 hours down the road to have them do it. And they sent me the correction. Now I just have to turn around and send the authorization in, which will happen in today, which will happen later this morning. Okay, got that sorted out. Oh yes, and of course we will go out and pay this bill in cash. And again, when you're looking at bills, when you're looking at your living expenses, okay, if you desire, YJ, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Looks like this is going to be the new routine in a lot of ways. What I'm going to have to be doing is, because my throat just won't take the 2-hour run and then another 2 hours of working on horoscopes. And since the horoscopes are, quite frankly, one of the things that keeps my head above water, what I'm figuring is at 7:30 today, so in about an hour, I'll bring this to a close and come back on after I get a few things running, a few things done. Yeah, brain one on hold. But so I'm going to get a couple of things done and then come back on. I'm going to split it up a little, which is something that was suggested a while ago with the journey in the first place. But you get an idea. Now I've got goals in mind here. Okay, and I'm just writing them down. I recommend you start with 3. Okay, well, technically you'll start with 1. Get 3 onto a list. Make them 15-minute to half-hour tasks. Okay, by doing that, you can check them off and it will feel as though you've got things done. You'll have quantifiable proof that the steps you're making are absolutely necessary. In all fairness, YJ, I really have considered it. And the reality of it is that because they are so general, because they are such a generality, I've stayed away from them online. I do them for my for the one contract, right, to be posted on their site. But I do not. The reason I don't do live ones, I did for a little while, but what I found was it didn't have, because there is such a discrepancy in the way it's done. And here's what I'm referring to by discrepancy. Okay, just briefly, since you brought it up. When you're looking at horoscopes, okay, the first thing you have to realize is we are talking about a very complicated, and I will call it a science, and not a pseudo, it's a science. If you use the same formula as the other people, as other astrologers, you'll come up with essentially the same answers. Okay, for the most part. But here's where I ran into the problem. For astrology to work properly, it has to be internally consistent. Now, this applies to everything. When I worked out my advertising path, okay, It has to be internally consistent. When you look at laws, if they don't apply to everybody, they're not a law. Well, they are a law, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to work right. Okay, you're going to have problems. Now, here's the biggest discrepancy I've got with the horoscopes. When you're looking at planetary rulers, okay, now we can go back in history and go, there used to be only 8. I cannot tell you what they were. Okay. But in today's world, if you take a look at the horoscopes, you've got 12 signs. Okay, now the first discrepancy here is they've got rulers. In traditional astrology, they've got one ruler handling 2 different signs. This did not work for me because it's kind of like, it's kind of like Trudeau running, bearing in mind I'm in Canada, Prime Minister Trudeau running both Canada and Russia at the same time, or the United States, or your President Biden running the United States and running Australia. There is a problem with this. Yeah, here's a neat little kick, and I'll come back to the astrology in just half a second there, YJ. Okay, this is the deck I've got handy right now. I usually work with the Rider-Waite. Okay, but if you take a look at this card, the 3 of Swords, as you're aware, most people will read it this way. Now, here's what you're not aware of. Do you have any idea how many different definitions there are for that card? And yeah, YJ, I'm asking you specifically because, well, frankly, you're the one that reads tarot as well. Do you have any idea how many definitions there are for this one specific card? Okay, because I will tell you, you're going to be shocked with the answer. Now, I learned to read tarot without any guidance. That's about as vague as you get, but you are right. The best books that I've seen will give you 15 to 20. Okay, now I recently did a little research. Right off the top, I can tell you, roughly speaking, there are approximately 7.9 billion definitions for this card. Okay, now yes, the overall tone of it is heartache, absolutely. But there are so many different ways that can cross current. Now here's the other thing. Most tarot readers will read right side up. This also has another 7.9 billion. Russia, yeah. But here's the funny thing, Malu, where it comes to Russia, or the rest of them. All the plan, this is why I don't worry about the time, the place somebody's born when I'm looking at astrology. Because all the rest of the planets, how you doing, Mala? All the rest of the planets of the signs are governed by planets that travel hundreds of thousands of miles. The furthest you can be away from a location on Earth is approximately 8,000 miles. And that's assuming you go through the heart of the planet. Okay, now that would be the one issue. The second issue is this. Like I said, it's the ruler thing. When you're looking at the planets that are ruling, in order for astrology to hold consistency, those planets you have to have the planets, the governing body doing the same thing, revolving around the same place. Well, here's the kicker. The sun is supposed to rule Leo. But the problem there is the sun cannot revolve around the sun. Okay, the moon does not, although it technically goes around the sun, its center of orbit is around Earth. Again, it cannot be a ruler. Now, I did find 2 other rulers. Yeah, and that's where it becomes. I mean, I've been reading I started reading tarot when I was 13 years old, No, 16. I started when I was 16. Didn't have any training at all. Astrology I didn't learn until I was 23. Okay. But it was funny when I got taught astrology. I was asking my mentor, I says, where it comes to astrology, what about this question? He looks at me and he goes, "You're asking me." I said, "Well, of course I'm asking you. You're the guy that's been doing it for 35 years. He says, "Yeah. And you're the chap that's doing fifth year calculations in your head after 3 months." The reality of it is, everything you do, everything that goes on in your life contributes to what you're doing. Now, people that tell you that that they just read what's in the card, I'll tell you right now, it is going to be modified by personal experience. When I'm talking about what I've gone through, the way that finances are handled, the way to make things work, okay, this is based on, yes, the instincts. I can't pull off an instinct where somebody phones me up and goes, "Where's my passport?" And I pin it down to literally within inches. Okay. Or somebody, now it doesn't always work that clearly. In all fairness, 80 to 85% of what I do, even with the cards, is common sense. Okay, common sense life experience. Most of it I can explain. Now, yes, I do have the ability to explain the more intricate details of things. Absolutely. See, the reality of life is this. You desire to move forward towards your success. First rule of thumb, you've got to put yourself as a critical priority. It wasn't until I reached a point. Now, for me, I get frustrated. As long as I don't get too frustrated around computers, it works. I get frustrated and I can make things happen. Okay. Like dealing with this major corporation. I got annoyed with them and I flat out told them what they've done. "Hey Timmy, how we doing?" Common sense hasn't been common in literally centuries, but it has gotten decidedly worse in the last 20 years. That is an excellent way to do it. That is a fantastic way. YJ's just saying here that what he's doing to learn to get his dowsing working, to get his dowsing is he's got a friend of his, presumably a friend, that's hiding silver and gold around his own property. Okay. And then using the dowsing rods to find it. Now, this is a fantastic training tool. Do I have one? No. One of the training tools that I've recommended to people, okay, if you're looking to get your higher senses working, okay, something that you can do, get a brown paper bag, okay, and get several brown paper bags. Get somebody to take a small object that'll fit inside it, and the little sandwich, the little lunch bags work beautifully. I don't have one in front of me right now, but for size example, this will work. I keep these handy because the salt content keeps my body running properly. It's that simple. But a bag this size, brown paper. Get a friend to take the bag. Okay. Get a friend to take a brown bag. Pick things that are of basically uniform shape, uniform color. Okay. And put them in the box. Okay. Put them in the bag. Close the bag over. Then what you do is you take the bag, set it on the table. They take the bag, set it on the table. You put your hands on either side of that bag. Do not touch the bag. Okay, and you just focus and you concentrate on that bag and you reach out with your mind and you start writing down, the qualities of what's in the bag. Whatever the color, whatever the shape, whatever details you can get. Write down as much as you can. And the thing here is this. If you don't do it all at once, that's not a problem. You set the bag down, you write down what comes to you. When you feel you've got everything that you can, you don't need a friend here for this, okay? When you feel you've got everything picked up that you can, open the bag up, pull the object out, and compare it to the list of qualities that you wrote down. This will enable you to find out whether or not your senses are getting stronger. Okay. Again, it's one of those neat little things. It's a tool to use to work your own senses up. Okay. Now, when it comes to, and where is it? Do I have one handy? No. Okay. Another neat little tool that you can use. This definitely didn't go the way I was planning on, but what the heck? Okay. Another little training tool you can use is cards. Now, these are obviously tarot cards, at least obviously from my standpoint. But if you take I'm just looking to see if I've actually got a deck that's visible. And the answer would appear to be no. But everybody knows what basic playing cards are. Take a deck of playing cards. Okay, and the way you start is you set the deck on the table. Okay, set the deck on the table. Do not pick it up. Okay, if you put your hand on it, it's the best way to do it. It stops you from accidentally seeing it. Decide to start with. Is it right? Is it red or black? That's all you start with. Okay. Now, when you look at it, you go, is it red or black? Right. Then you turn around, look at the card. If you got it right, you set it in one pile. If you got it wrong, you set it in the other pile. Now, this is not a test that you have to worry about passing per se. But the ratio you're looking for is this. When you are either getting only 13 wrong or only 13 right, okay, this is a statistical anomaly. Okay, if you're just guessing, it should come up pretty close to 50-50. Okay, just reading that, Malu. You stopped your thought process here. Oh, there we go. If you'd like, Malu, if you'd like to complete that thought, I'll be more than happy to answer the question. Okay. And I'll get to that as soon as I see it come up. That said, if you're just guessing at the cards, it's going to come up about 50-50. What you're looking for is the 75% mark, which is at 13. Okay. Now, when you get to that point, that's how you know. Now, if you're getting only 13 right, what you're doing is reading the energy backwards. Okay, so take a moment, recenter yourself, and start over. Because if you're picking up that many that are wrong, you're still reading the energy. You're just reading it backwards. So it needs a little bit more work. There's nothing wrong with it. You haven't failed. Ultimately, yes. Okay. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That is pretty much the size of it. Now, this is a really neat tool because it evolves with you. When you get to the point of being able to sort out that many, when it gets to the point of that statistic. Okay, and I'm talking yours. I'm not talking about anybody else's. When you get to the point where you're really consistent with deciding whether it's black or white, black or red, then you increase the complexity of it, and you start going after the sign, after the suit. Okay, and again, you're still looking at the same thing. You're looking for only missing 13 or only getting 13. Okay. And again, you work it until you're going through them one at a time. And like I said, you take the cards, you can put them in your hand. Do not, leave them on the table. If you want to separate them a little. Now, that's always a nice thing to see. I was lucky there, YJ. When I was in high school, no, when I was in elementary school, okay, if you know anything about the wolf, the history of the wolf and that sort of thing, there was a gentleman by the name of Farley Mowat. Okay, and I was lucky. I was in kindergarten, and Farley Mowat came to our school with his timber wolf. I'll tell you, that was a sight I will never forget. But they are a fabulous creature. And yeah, I realize I just went sideways, but hey, what the heck? But you take your cards, okay, and you set them down, okay. If you want to separate a little, if you're having trouble seeing, take the card and face it away from you, okay, so that you're not looking at it, but you take it off the deck, take it and point it away from you, okay. Now, whatever you do, make sure you're not sitting in front of a mirror. That's just going to screw things up. Then sort it out. When you're getting the black and red sorted, then go after the signs. And again, when you get it up to the level where you're only missing 13, or you're only getting 13, either one is the same problem. Okay, you work until you're getting all but 13 of them. Then you improve the complexity a little more. And you go, now I'm going after the suit and the number. Okay. And, or you go after just the number. Let's stick with that. You take the card to make it a little more complex. You go, okay, now I'm only going after the number on the card. And you do it the same way. You sit there, you set the card on the table. You pick it up, you lift it so it's facing away from you. But you'll notice the action is going this. I'm not doing card tricks. Scrap that thought. Okay, the only card trick I do really well is 52 pickup. Although I will tell you, I did see a guy when I was doing a live reading one day. I've had people do live readings with me where I'll give them the deck and they'll hand it back to me and go, it's all right. I'll tell them shuffle it. And they'll hand it back to me and go, it's already shuffled. Or I've seen them take the deck, and I'm sure you remember this. Put your hand on the deck, and you spread it all over the table. Okay, and then you collect it up again. I've seen them shuffle it that way, but the one that caught my attention was a guy took the deck, right? And I'm pretty certain most of you know how to bridge a deck, where you take it and you put it on the table like this, and then you fold it together. Clearly, I'm not doing that on this table because, well, it'll end up on the floor, right? But you split it and then you mesh the deck together. Well, this guy, I almost had a heart attack on him, metaphorically. He took the card and he split it. He takes his hands like this, right? And he bridged it and fired it into the air. And then he catches the entire deck and puts it down and hands it back to me and goes, there you go, all shuffled. Now, I will tell you that is a sight that you never forget, right? So, I mean, these are just tools that you can work with. And, of course, the reality is once you are at the point of being able to spot, when you're at the point of being able to spot all, 13 of them, all but 13, then your senses are getting stronger. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to astrology here for a moment. Okay. Because the other discrepancy with astrology is everybody talks about progressions and what have you. Or more to the point, astrologers talk about doing progressions. But the really weird part about it is this. They've got a calculation they do, and I forget what the calculation is, to figure out a progression. Well, I'll show you something. This is exactly why. When somebody tells you they use a book for astrology, this is why. Now, this book here Okay, this is called an ephemeris. And you see all those numbers? They are for 9 different planets and a few points. Okay, plus the sun and moon. For 4 months. Now, I got told one day when I told the person they wanted an astrology reading. And I told them, let me grab my book. She turned around and goes, well, you have to use a book. You're not a professional. This is the book we're talking about. Okay. But here's the thing. On that book, in that book, they've got this calculation. Astrologers on the whole have a calculation. In all fairness, I forget what it is. But it's an interesting calculation. It's an interesting calculation, but what I found out is if you take a look at where you at your birth chart, what's listed on the day you were born, you want to do a progression to see how things are going, take a look at the day in question and compare it that way. Much easier, much more effective. Okay, at least in my opinion. Now, the thing about this is I'm talking about moving forward with the way your life is going. Okay, how do you get to your success level? Now, these 2 books here. Okay, and I am working on this one. I've started writing it already. These books here are both of the same series. This is Believe in Yourself. Okay, this one is Believe in Your Business. I'm writing another one that is about the same size that will literally be titled Believe in Your Success. Okay, I played around with a couple of other ideas for titles, but I decided to settle on that one, and I will be working on this over the next few months. Because I will tell you, in any success, and it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are in life, we all have exactly the same position. Okay, we are all right here, right now, and every one of us is responsible for our own success level. Yeah, that's a wonderful thought. Yeah. I honestly, well, I'd like to say I'm not, but I've looked into witchcraft before. I used to be a warlock. Centuries back, I worked for the government as a witch hunter. Wasn't a good idea on their hand because I was an active witch hunter, an active witch. Well, actually, in all fairness, I was an active warlock. But everybody's in the same place. You're all right here, right now, and you're the only one in existence that is going to straighten your life out. Get all the guidance you can from people. Absolutely. Okay. Get all the guidance you can get. It's absolutely imperative. But I will tell you, and I'm going to go into this in detail later, there are 4 components, no matter whether you're a pauper or a multimillionaire. Doesn't matter. There are 4 components to becoming successful. Good morning, Denali. How are we doing? Glad you could join us. It does seem, from my standpoint, it works out quite reasonably well. Now, what time are we looking at? Yeah. Look, it works out reasonably well to get on at this point. I'm not going to be able to run 2 hours in one stretch because it turns out my throat will not run 4 hours straight. Okay. One day I'll figure out how to get things moving properly. But when it comes to success, there are 4 components to it. And this I will go into detail in the same fashion I do with those 2 books. Okay. And it will be kept down to a price where people can actually afford it. There's lots of fantastic books out there that tell you how to be successful, how to make money work if you've got $40,000 or $50,000. Now, I'm not certain about you guys. That I will tangle with. I do have it on my list there, YJ. The issue of talking about past lives. And that is an interesting subject. There's no question there. The four steps that Good morning, Marilena. How you doing? Glad you could join us. The reason I keep turning over here, if you haven't seen this before, is because I've got the same video that you guys are looking at. I've got the same thing on my monitor beside me, but it's close enough I can read it without actually having to put my face right up against the window. The 4 steps that are absolutely required. First of all, you've got to have a purpose. Okay. And what I mean by a purpose is you yourself have to have that emotional drive to say, this is what I desire to accomplish. That's the first part of the formula. Then you require a plan. How are you going to take your life from where it is to where you desire it to be? Or more to the point, from where it is to if you're not content with where it is, what are you going to do to change the energy around it? Now, this is where guidance from other people comes in real handy. And there's a lot of really good people out there, really good instructions out there, a lot of really good books. Okay, I look at it from the concept of if you desire change, we're taught change is difficult, it's painful, it's scary. Okay, the reality is if you're breathing, the one consistency in reality is change. Now, so you've got to have the plan. And having a plan is where this comes in. Now, for me, I'm still old school. So I write different goals down and then go after them. In this fashion, I'm able to get everything done that I require, just not necessarily as fast as I'd like. So that's the second one, is you've got to have a plan. The third one is you've got to have persistence. Okay, the persistence issue is you got to realize if you desire to build a house, you've got to stay on it in order to get it completed. If you desire to make a sandwich, if you're not persistent, you won't have the sandwich built. It's the same thing, if you desire to get dressed, it's going to take persistence to do that. So you got to have persistence. And then you've got to have patience. You didn't get into the state of your life that you're in right now overnight with any luck. Now, granted, some things change. Okay, why, Jane? This is for everybody. Okay, take this piece of underdeveloped land that you've got, that you desire to have. Take a sheet of paper. Okay, let me just grab one thing because it's not here, but it's only on the other side of the room. In this case, I actually know where it is. It's just this will show up easier. Now, this goes to anybody looking at buying a piece of property or buying a vehicle. And understand, I'm building an empire. Where did is it there? Nope. Wonder what I did with it. Of course, I did say I'm not exactly as organized as I'd like to be yet. But I've written something down now. I can't see it. So here we go. I've got 2 sheets here anyway. Now, in my case, I am building, from my standpoint, I am building an empire. Now, understand, I only made $3,600 last month total. I'm talking about an empire. So I built a corporate layout for handling $750,000 a month. Okay. Take a sheet of paper. Okay. Now, in my case, my business is Inner Voice Enterprises. Okay. And the call line I've always had with it is the future is my business. The present is your life. Okay. And what I look at is changing the whole 9 yards because I don't like the way the modern world is working. But I can't change the world on my own. This is up to you guys as well. Where it comes to the empire aspect, for me, I intend to go global. It's just that simple. So what I did is, well, oh yeah, I picked a pen that isn't working. Now bear in mind, okay, I'm just fed up with that one. I love it when pens run out. Actually, in all fairness, I really don't. Fortunately, I got a selection of them. Now, because Inner Voice Enterprises is intended to unify the world, I am planning on literally, and I know how big this sounds. Okay. You know, I know how big this sounds, but because Inner Voice Enterprises is designed as a unification process, I'm in the process of laying out the building of a true recovery center. Therefore, I use the term we. We own an empire. Inner Voice Enterprise. I got a second one. I must have bought many of these at the same time. Now, that's all I've done. That's the start on Inner Voice Enterprises Empire. Okay, there we have it. That's the starting of my building an empire. Now, here's the starting of your building and buying a house. And we're going to drop that one. I bought a pack of felt pens. By the way, they do not last forever. Many of them really don't last that long. Now, here's the thing. You desire to buy a house. What have we got here? You take to buy, you're looking to buy a house or you're looking to buy a car that you cannot afford. Now, understand, my credit rating that everybody talks about being absolutely critical, and it really is important. When I went in and bought my car, it was only 645. My credit rating was only 645. Okay, so I walked onto the lot and I went, "That's the car I desire." But the problem is, I know what this is about what I'm expecting you to ask. It's not going to come in at that. Okay, and unless you can bring it down to this lower number, I'm not buying it. You bring it down to that, I'll walk away with it. Okay. Now, to buy yourself a house to start with, now you don't, even if you've only got $1 in your pocket, let's say you're heavily in debt and you still desire to buy a property. Here's what you do. You take a felt or pen, doesn't matter, blank sheet of paper. And all you do is draw a rectangle. Now, remember I mentioned a long time ago, I'm not an artist. You draw a rectangle, a square, a circle, whatever you please. Okay. And inside that rectangle, you go, I own my property. Okay. Inside that thing. Now, you'll notice this is a pretty simplistic drawing. I don't push the artwork. Okay. That's all you do to start with. Take that rectangle. I own my property. Okay. And realistically, I own my own property. Okay. That's all it takes. Take that picture, put it up in your office where you work on your money, or put it up on your fridge. Okay. I wouldn't put this in an art emporium by any functional stretch. But that's the first step. Okay. Same thing applies if you're looking at buying a car. Now, the more detailed you are, the easier it is to stay focused on it. Okay. If you're looking at a car, you just do the normal little thing. Okay. Doesn't have to be anything spectacular. Okay. But I'm doing the exact same thing here. And you do this, oddly enough, okay, this is why I don't do artwork. There we go. I own my own car. That's the car. This helps get it focused. Ultimately, yes, YJ, it really is. Think about it this way. Sigil manifestation was the precursor to, it was a precursor to writing. Okay. It's the same thing if you take a look at hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs are a fantastic little item. No, I do not read them. But I did find out something about them. They have their own story. They say their own thing. But the layout is a circuit board as well. It's an energy conduit. Okay, this is the important factor. Everything is interconnected. This is just one of those things. Okay, and this is why that list that I said that I had where it came to writing the books. Yesterday, I added 4 different books. Okay, because I'm writing 14 at the same time, simultaneously. I've got 4 sitting here right now. Books 8, 10, 11, and 12. Now 10 and 11 are already up, but I'm going through and I'm having to correct editing problems I ran into with the first one. And I'm just double checking book 11. The end of an epic, I'm quite content with. I'm finding very few things that I'm modifying in it, not the storyline. Okay, I'm talking about editing things. But, when I take a look at these, when you desire to make something happen, get it straight in your own head. What is it that you personally are seeking to accomplish? Okay, yes, I was talking to a professional videographer, and what they told me was, no, you can't have your hands moving all over the place because it's not professional. It's like, look, the reality is this is me. If I'm sitting there talking to you, the odds are I'm going to be playing with something anyway. Usually these funny things here. This is what you keep hearing the noise of. Okay. I don't sit still well. But what the heck? But when I get done here, I have a few other things I've got to get done. I will likely be back this afternoon. And one person, I'm sorry, I do not remember who it was. One person suggested I do things on in shorter versions. And that is ultimately my apologies. Ultimately, yeah. The reality of it is when you get your mindset, the thought line that I've always worked with, when your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. This is just a standard way of looking at things for me. Okay. And it's because of that philosophy that I've come to the conclusion that I can keep doing this on a mild basis. One day I'm going to do the unthinkable. Okay. If I ever, the one issue that I will tell you, there are some major discrepancies with a lot of the way society is running. One of the biggest things we have to realize is that every single individual in society is of equal value. They don't have the same size pocketbook. But I will always remember this chap that I used to have coffee with. He lived on the street. Okay. And when we were sitting there having coffee, and somebody dropped a pop can into his basket. And he says, "Thank you very much." And the person took off. Then Paul did the thing that was really shocking from my end. He's living on the street and he goes, I really don't need this. And I looked at him and I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I smoke." And he says, "Obviously I have to go to the store to buy it." So he goes, "What difference does it make to me? The pop can's there. I take it, I get a nickel off my cigarettes. Great." He says, "But the thing you got to remember is a nickel is a nickel is a nickel." And then he digs out his bank book. and he lives on the street. Okay, but his bank book has a high six-figure balance on it, well over $900,000 in the bank. And he says, I'll tell you, it doesn't matter about the bank. A nickel is still a nickel. You deal with the nickels, you will make money. You will get ahead. Okay. Now, this is why I have mentioned the idea of tracking where your money's going. Okay. The thing is, now, when it comes to that issue that I showed you about drawing the picture, okay, now this is, I've showed you other drawings before, and this is why I don't draw them. This is why I don't draw alien races. Okay, but I had one client that came to me, and she took this to, in my eyes, an extreme. What she would do, and she did it with a piece of property, she took a block of wood, and she whittled out what she desired to own, the property she desired to own, complete with the landscaping, the outline, the landscaping, the buildings, the outbuildings, the house itself. She carved it all into one block of wood. Now, she'd been working on it for years. Okay. But she showed it to me. It was a sheet of wood that was about this wide, or about this square. And it was a complete topographical carving. When she finished it, she shows it to me and she goes, this is the property I'm going to own. This is my property. She did not put a name, an address on it at all. Okay. All she did was, this is my property. She didn't even specify where it was. It's just, this is my property. Now, within a year of her showing me that, she ended up buying that property. Okay. And she came back and showed me that. She says, this is what I'm talking about. And she goes, here's the picture of the property I own. Here's the property deed. And I kid you not, it was right down to the inch. This woman had it down to a fine art. Okay. It's something to put in mind with those of you that have credentials, as in a PhD, whatever list you want, CSA, I don't know. Picking an acronym. Okay. One businessman I talked to, he had a business card. Oh, there's one. I was going to say I don't have one handy. I do so. He had a business card. Okay. And on the back, like as people have, on the front card, you've got that. But then he had a list of his credentials. He had 4 lines of different degrees. Okay. He had four lines of different degrees. And he goes, something you've got to understand about this. He goes, I've got 3 other cards at home with other degrees. All of them look the same with different degrees. He says the only thing a degree actually tells you is that person had a good memory when they got the degree. Now, that said, I had a similar conversation with my own psychiatrist years ago. And he asked me why I didn't go after my psychology degree. I says, well, to be honest, I said, no offense intended, but I don't need a sheet of paper on the wall for somebody to tell me I have no idea what I'm talking about. Now, this said, I will do my best to be back again this afternoon. I'm going to have to get some things done. Barely got you there, Chad. Got me right at the end of it. But good morning. Glad you can make it. I'm going to do my best to come in and come back on here for an hour this afternoon, probably right after lunch. Okay. But thank you so much for joining me. I am really happy with it. Really happy you got here. And I'm hoping to see you a little later. That said, until we meet again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.